Greetings and welcome to the second episode of IRF Young Professionals Talk Series. And today our topic of discussion is next generation on the move, integrating road safety and active mobility for better health. We are hosting this series in collaboration with yours, Youth for Road Safety. And my name is Tenekai Marapara. I'm a civil engineer with WSP New Zealand, and I'm also an IRF Young Professional Lead. Just a few housekeeping issues. This webinar will be recorded and available on the IRF website next week. And Ray, could you please put on the slides, please? Yeah, thank you, Ray. This talk is part of our executive series on the road to Istanbul. I know you might be wondering what that entails. So let me just fill you in. So this year, the International Road Federation, IRF, will be hosting the World Congress from October 15th to the 18th in Istanbul, Turkey, under the theme Connecting to Empower Mobility, Roads as Enablers of Sustainable Future for All. And we are just 108 days away from this significant event. Next slide, please, Ray. So the Congress will feature a range of insightful sessions, interactive workshops, and networking opportunities, bringing together industry leaders, policymakers, young professionals from all over the globe. And additionally, there will be exhibitions showcasing the latest innovations and technologies in the road sector and mobility. So it's gonna be an exciting one. And next slide, please, Ray. So registrations are now open, and then early bird rates are also available until the 15th of July. So don't miss this opportunity. If you're a student, we have special rates for you. And if you're a visitor, and if you have a spouse that you want them to attend, there are special rates for you. So, and also there's gonna be a gala dinner, which is as you can see there. So you better hurry before 15 July. And then, so thank you for joining us today. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Shashank. Over to you, Shashank. Thank you.
Thanks, TK, for this introduction and overview of what's up in Istanbul. So for today, our conversation is next generation on the move, integrating road safety with active mobility for better health. So as the topic suggests, we're going to talk about how the new form of transport should be safer and how active mobility would lead to better health. And on this, we have our team from yours here. This is they'll be talking about how their initiatives on bicycle paths in Bogota, how initiatives in Mexico, and then what is the policy brief and how does that look like. As a quick snippet, 2 days ago there was a report that came out of by the Lancet Health Survey, where they said that more than 50% of Indians should not have active lifestyle. India was ranked 12th from the bottom in terms of active health and lifestyle, right? So this is, I think, a much ado or a much needed conversation. And I'm excited to see the insights that the folks from yours will share with us. And with that, I'll hand it over to Stephen Comey. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Shashank. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am Stephen Comey from the Global Coalition, and I'll briefly tell you guys about active mobility. But first of all, at the Global Coalition, we have a structure of SD champions that are responsible for shaping policy briefs on the linkages between road safety and sustainable mobility. In our latest policy brief, we try to look at how active mobility will enhance the health of youth as well as sustainability. It is important and shocking to note that each year about 3.2 million deaths are attributed to physical inactivity. And for children, we have about 3% of global fatalities as a result of physical inactivity for young people. And given these statistics, estimates also show that by 2030, if nothing is done, we're going to have about 500 million people they will have a high probability of being obese or having cardiovascular diseases as a result of physical inactivity. But there exist several solutions to solve these issues, and most often, road safety and other sustainable mobility solutions can be able to reverse these trends by 2030. Now, we tried at the level of coalition to come up with some action plans in which young people can do in order to improve active mobility. And now when we look at some road safety solutions, for example, having safer streets, having slow speed zones, as well as maybe segregating vulnerable road users from the roads, the creation of cycle lanes and the walkable lanes for pedestrians. These solutions are actually very important in order to improve active mobility. In fact, studies shows that when we improve active mobility and make it safer for people, it tends to make people to live from their cars and to use the sustainable modes of transport. And in fact, we could have about a reduction in about 9% of global fatalities, of all forms of fatality as a result of improvement in active mobility. It is therefore very critical for us to work hand in glove and for young people to work to improve active mobility, because for young people, this improvement will not only increase their physical health, but their mental health being. For example, we are going to have improvement in the sleep patterns. We're going to have a reduction in stress. We're going to have improvement in cognitive performance. And as such, at the coalition, we have written several policy briefs, and the latest policy brief is on SDG 3 and SDG 11, where we not only try to look at the linkages between road safety and sustainable mobility, we also try to come up with some action plans on what young people can actually do in their cities and in their communities in order to improve the situation of sustainability. And as such, we are encouraging everyone to get to the Global Youth Coalition site, and it's already included in the chat site, to see some of these policy briefs and read them and try to understand these linkages, as well as the various actions that we can take in our community to improve active mobility. Thank you very much, and I will hand over the mic to Shang.
Thanks, Stephen, for this insight and the walkthrough. And yeah, it's quite interesting. We'll come to the Q&A after we've done a complete round of introductions and insights. So with that, let's move to Paola. My apologies. Daniela is next, if I remember rightly. Daniela, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. My name is Daniela Gomez. I work as a capacity development manager at JORS, and I am also a member of the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. I would like to talk today about the relevance and the importance of incorporating cyclists and pedestrians' perspectives in urban policies. So, well, we live in a car-oriented world. Almost every place in the world has a wide infrastructure for vehicles, motorized vehicles, and cities are designed to accommodate as many cars as possible. So it is important, really relevant, to give pedestrians and cyclists the opportunity to express themselves and incorporate their views in the policies in cities. That's a pressing issue. The international community has addressed different resolutions, plans, studies that insist on the need to design cities for people, regardless of their age, their gender, their physical conditions, the mode of transport they use. Cities should accommodate everyone. There's a very famous Colombian urbanist called Gil Peñalosa, and he promotes a vision of cities for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds. Maybe you've heard of it, 880 cities. And that is understanding that cities have to be designed with a vision for everyone and to promote healthy conditions for everyone. And humans are diverse, right? We are different. We have different genders, orientations, ways to see and move around the city. And that's why cities should respond to that diversity and be as well diverse. There's something very interesting that I've known recently, and it is that one of the latest resolutions of the UN has established or proclaimed a new decade of sustainable transport. So as I was saying, sustainable transport and sustainable users and vulnerable users' voices is a pressing issue. They need to be heard and they need to be addressed. And based on my experience implementing projects in Bogota, I would like to briefly share why it is important and how this participation and these voices can be heard. So basically in Bogota in 2020, there was launched or organized or formalized a space of participation for cyclists. It is called the Local Bicycle Board. In 2022, I had the opportunity to be a delegate of this board and also to implement a local actions project supported by the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. This board, the Local Bicycle Board, is an open opportunity for cyclists in Bogota to oversee and to participate in the policy making around cycling in the city. And through my local actions project, we were able to provide capacity development activities. We were able to provide incentives for some of the delegates so they could have some funding, like a small funding, but still they could be able to implement their own ideas and their own initiatives. And we also supported the board to draft a proposal for the city council to improve cycling conditions in the city. And that was thanks to the implementation of the local actions project with the support of the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. Nonetheless, this local bicycle board is facing a lot of challenges. Last year, there was an election of new delegates, and we can see that participation isn't that big or wasn't that big at that moment last year. So what my reflection there is we need to promote participation, but it has to be meaningful. And many of the participants or the delegates of this local bicycle board were young people, because according to latest data, we are young people. We are the ones that make most of the sustainable mobility trips around the world. So of course, that was reflected in this local bicycle board, and we could see a lot of young people being delegates. The thing is, it seems like this participation space maybe didn't meet the expectations of people. Maybe participation wasn't as meaningful as expected, and that is leading to a lot of challenges in this board. So I would just like to finalize my intervention by calling for governments, local governments or national governments to incorporate meaningful youth participation. It has to be a systemic process. It has to be a long-term process, and it has to be a commitment where investment, participation, and respect is present all the time. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to join the discussion after Paola.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for the opportunity of being here. First of all, my name is Paola. I'm from Mérida, Yucatan, Mexico. It's the southeast zone of Mexico. And I'm a member of a feminist collective, Reflexión y Acción Feminista. We are a group that was built in 2014. Yes, so we have 10 years working in the city. And the opportunity of collaborate with the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety started last year with our project Entornos Amables. And in this year, we have the opportunity to make a new edition. So I'm going to specifically talk about the 2023 edition in which we build meeting spaces, tactical urbanism, perception mapping as a diagnosis stage, workshop and cyclist counts as intervention stage. And in the first stage, we identify 5 priority areas to intervene. And in 2023, we intervened the eastern zone of the city. And in this year, we are making actions in the southern zone. So from RAF, we have a feminist and gender approach. And this is because there is a fact in our realities, and I think in the most Latin American cities, maybe in the world, I don't know, you will all gonna tell me later, but the fact is that the most vulnerable people, the people with lower income, the people who are caregivers and have multimodal needs are those who experience more road and patriarchal violence. in their daily lives. And most of them are women. So this is not a coincidence. It is a structural problem. So we think that strengthening knowledge of the territory, social denunciation, and community articulation, as also the bicycle as a means of transportation, we think it's a strategy to support territorial autonomies. That the autonomies is the thing that we bet on from REF. The project that we developed, we have a lot of great experiences, but I think about the things that we learned more, it was that one of the most significant actions of this project, the bicycle, that now this year it calls everyone to the bike, o todos al pedal, because in 2024 and to 2022, it calls women to the bike, mujeres al pedal. And in 2023, we make it kids to the bike, niñas al pedal. That's why, because we realize that everyone should feel called to use the bicycle, to use it as a transportation mode. We focus on kids because we believe that autonomies can be built since very early ages. And so this year we want to work with everyone who feel called, who are in the women, young children, and LGBTQIQ+ community. We only not work with men because we believe that they have another spaces that they can be get these knowledges, but we are ready to make alliances. So, well, this methodology that the bicycle seeks to generate territorial autonomy through the use of bicycles to all those who feel called, like I said, always from an anti-racial, anti-patriarchal, anti-capacitism approach. It's a 4-session workshop who aims to generate knowledge and skills about the use of bicycles as a means of transportation in a safe, autonomous, and joyful way. This is very important for us. If you're not having fun, it doesn't make any sense. With these actions, we are getting a little closer. Since 2024 and the last edition of Proyectos Amables, Entornos Amables, every action gets us a little closer to the construction of a friendly environment and more human cities. But we realize that this is not a one-way road. We also need, like Daniela said in their last presentation, governmental will, public policies, integrated mobility systems, and a trained and incorruptible sanctioning and surveillance institutions, as well as a strong and organized communities. That is the bet to move towards autonomy. Thank you very much for listening, and I can't wait for your questions.
Thank you, Paula, for that quick insight into the project. So everyone who has questions, please drop them in the Q&A section or in the chat. Let's start off with you, Paula. I have a question for you from essentially someone has also asked a similar question, which I was about to, where a person from Vietnam, they have shared that a group of students in Hue University are providing cycling lessons to children pupils in secondary schools in Hue City. So, and you were talking about how your experience and training and getting people motivated on that. So I wanted to understand from you, what were the barriers that you saw in implementation, and what are the learnings that you see could help scale such initiatives for a more active and healthy lifestyle?
Well, the first challenge in the road for mainly kids, but in general, is like Daniela said, the cities are built for cars. So we have an article that talks about parenting, because I'm also a psychology, so we study parenting styles, and we said that it's not very easy to have like a light parenting style, because all of the violence that is outside of the house, sometimes inside also, no? But I think that was the biggest challenge, to convince, like to make understand the parents that even though the streets are aggressive, even though there's a big risk in it, we have to try. Because the feminists always say that if you don't live, if you are afraid to die because you're living, you're not living. So you have to take the chance. You have to make it prepare. that's why we make the workshops. That's why we give it the tools. That's why we rode with them. We have monthly bike routes, monthly biking routes in a group. So we help them to make confidence in the city. And I think that was the biggest challenge. I lost it. If only ask for the challenges.
Challenges and the hurdles, and how did you overcome that? But I guess you already answered that. So thanks, Paola, for that.
Thank you.
I'll pass it over to TK to go ahead with the moderation session. So TK, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Shashank, and thanks to our speakers for bringing valuable insights and different experiences in the realm of road safety and active mobility. So I will now invite our speakers back to join our panel discussion, and I'll be moderating the session. And as we dive deeper into this important topic, let's give a warm welcome to our panelists. So, we are here already. Thank you. So, I will start with Stephen. Stephen, you've contributed as an author to SDG 11 Police Brief, and I think SDG 3 as well, which serve as an excellent toolkit for youth to learn about integrating road safety with sustainable mobility and sustainability as well as healthy. We've been observing evidence-based research from technocrats like you thrown into the bin and overshadowed by political gains and selfish motives. So bridging the gap between academia, policymaking, and processes remains a challenge, and it requires a concerted effort to translate academic findings into actionable policies. So my question to you, Stephen, is, as a PhD student and a published researcher, how can young professional researchers influence local mobility processes through their research, and how they can we bring the gap between can you bridge the gap between academia and decision-making process?
Thank you very much, TK, for that interesting question. The first thing I would say, I don't claim a monopoly over being a good researcher, but what I will say is that in terms of road safety, the main goal is to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. But now, how can we reduce this by carrying out research? That is the question. So because of this, research needs to be policy-driven. When I talk of policy-driven, I talk of two main things. The first, research should be carried out to inform policies. Like for the past, some publications we made this year, we are trying to investigate some of the prevalence of distraction and speeding in Cameroon. And now what is the goal of this? Is to inform decision makers, to inform them of the situation, and then from there we can now have a policy. Then in the second way, research should be carried out to investigate the effectiveness of the current policies, and then look at the evidence-based solutions, because policies are being implemented. Not all policies can be effective. So it's very important to carry out research in order to investigate, to see if these policies are effective. Then one important aspect is that maybe the decision makers, the people to make the final decision for the policies, they might not be technicians in the field. So it is very important that this research is made simple. Like for example, like in the past publications we made, we ensured that for each research we came out with an action plan. Like for example, after carrying out looking at the prevalence of distraction, we came out with a 7-year action plan, so that when a decision maker takes that research, goes directly into action plans, he sees how he can translate now that research into real actions. And that's one important thing that the Global Coalition is also doing in terms of policy briefs. We're doing a lot of research. Then at the end, we come out with several actions, several policies that decision makers and young people can now take in order to improve or bridge that gap between research and policies and implementation. Then lastly, once we have research, it is important to communicate this research to decision makers, and then also advocate for changes. And then maybe as young people, we can carry out local action programs. And that is one thing I applaud the Global Coalition because we have several local action programs in different areas of the world, which is based on evidence out of research carried out in those countries. So implementing these actions, taking the research and implementing to solve the solution on ground is something very critical that can bridge now the gap between the research and the practical aspect of it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. I mean, for those insightful points. Yeah, it's evidence. It's evident that you young researchers and young people, you play a pivotal role in shaping local mobility policies and translating research into actionable recommendations, and also actively participating in policy discussions. So, I mean, yeah, and the gap between academia and policymaking is essential as well to ensure that all your research and scientific insights inform and guide sustainable mobility strategy. And I like the point you said, it has to be as simple as possible so that yeah, it can be easy to understand and read. So and also, I mean, I'd like to add on when our expert advice is disregarded or thrown into the bin, it's also our responsibility to, as young people, as young professionals, to effectively communicate the potential risk and consequences associated with disregarding evidence-based advice. So, talking of the next generation on the move, Paula, you touched on some very exciting and important stuff from your local action project in 2023, in which you built meeting spaces, technical urbanism, perception mapping, and all those that you developed in your project. So my question to you is, what changes have you perceived as a result of the implementation of bicycles in schools in Merida? And yeah, if you could, I know you've touched some of the things, but if you could expand on that, that would be good.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, I have to say that I totally agree with Stephen. I also like a fan of research, and I think that knowledge is power. Always say that. We have to make our own investigations. There are no wrong ways. Getting informated is always a good way. So go for it. About changes in the elementary school, I think it was a great experience. I already said to my collective, I'm not gonna work with anyone but kids from now on. I really love it. It was so fun. I really recommend it because it's also a population with a lot of needs, a lot of need of being heard, I think. I think the most tangible change in this project was after we make the tactical urban planning. We make a few zebra zones and pedestrians paths. The teachers and parents realized that they can take the streets, and they decided to implement a system in the entrance and exit schedule time in the school. So they took the street and closed the vehicular traffic to avoid that the families had some injury, since the cars were always overcrowded. The first time I went after we make the urban tactical actions, I was like, amazing. That's why we gave them the materials that we had, like the cones and the painting. They had like a new infrastructure. So I was really excited about that. And also after the bike school, several children all began to attend to the school on bicycles instead of walking or in cars. And I think it's worth to mention that most of the families are neighbors of the elementary school, so this makes it possible to go by themselves. So what is more about autonomy than going by yourself to school and actually get safe?
Oh, well done on that, Paula, and thank you for sharing those insightful observation. And it's encouraging to hear about the positive impact of tactical urbanism and the bike school initiative that you mentioned, and also the shift from cars to bicycle not only enhances safety, but also fosters a healthier, more active lifestyle among the students and their families. And it's a great example of how targeted interventions can create meaningful change in our communities. And thank you for that. And then maybe just to follow up on that as well, what other actions were important for the friendly environment project that you mentioned before?
Well, like I said, research was mainly part of this project. We have geospatial diagnosis and urban audits in the city in general, in the whole city. This was a great adventure. We make it in collaboration with Estrategia Misión Cero, that is another organization in Mexico. We look at the city like in numbers. After located the red zones that have had the most car crashes or injuries with pedestrians or other transportations, we make a cyclist count. So this is the way how we selected our 5 priority areas. We make a cross check of the greatest traffic with the greatest presence of people on the streets, whether it is a residential space or a cycling areas. And we have these 5 areas. We also make a perception mapping. This is a methodology I built as my thesis project in my university education. So it's a methodology that we have been making since 2024. We have a lot of information about how people perceive the environment, especially how women perceive it. So we know that how zones are safe, how zones are unsafe, why, and what we can do with it, how we get involved. Because we believe, like I said earlier, there's not only a governmental road to make policies. We think that we can make policies through communities, through organization. So that's a bet. We make also the bicycles, the urban tactics. We have a lot involved with the community. I actually am now friends with the teachers and with the family. So I really enjoyed the project, and I hope that this year, the experience of this year will be similar or even greater than the last one.
Oh, kudos to you. And yeah, thanks for that and for engaging with the community, especially that is important, because at the end of the day, you need to design or whatever that you're building or creating should have the perception of the end user. And yeah, thanks for that. And I will move on to Daniela. It's no secret, Daniela, that prioritizing pedestrian-friendly and cycle-friendly environments enhances road safety, of course, and reduces some of the crime, things like crime, decreases the prevalence of chronic diseases, and creating low-speed zones in urban areas also promotes active transport and reduces urban transport emissions, contributing to improved public health and social welfare. So marginalized group often including young individuals, in particular those with disabilities, often lack representation and their voices often go unheard. I mean, young people with disabilities, possibly as a result of crashes, mostly, face substantial disadvantages, and securing funding for pedestrian-friendly and cycle-friendly environments can be challenging as well. So yet designing these environments actually benefits everyone. If you design for young people, you've designed for all. So I would like to hear your thoughts on how would you sell an idea to a financier and convince them to commit and invest in safe low-speed zones, cycle-friendly environments. Could you share more about your experience with your project in Bogota? Thanks.
Absolutely, Tendekai. Well, I would say first to those financiers that spill kills. People walking or people cycling around the city don't enjoy having speeding vehicles next to them. I can tell even my own experience when I'm not living in Bogota right now. When I was there, I used to cycle or commute by bicycle almost every day because I had the infrastructure for bicycles, or I had less speeds for cars by my side, so I could feel like I can handle it. But now I live in the south of the US, where it is like very car oriented with highways and like big and wide roads. There's little infrastructure for cycling, and I can tell you that I do not feel motivated to use my bicycle as I felt in Bogota. So really investing in the infrastructure and promoting a space like the design of cities, having those redistribution of spaces for vulnerable users can really make the difference and can shape a totally different city where you will not only see cars moving around and people like individually in their own bubbles, but you will see people actually interacting, enjoying the city, enjoying of a healthier or having better health, and even people contributing to the local economy. There's studies that say that whenever you invest on infrastructure for cyclists, let's say in a commercial area, cyclists are the ones that buy more and provide more returns to the local economy. Because maybe people think it's the other way around, like if you go on a car, you would buy more and you maybe have more money to buy things, but that's not true. Like studies have shown that it's cyclists, it's us, that maybe we can commute easily. We just have to park our bikes in the park in the cycle rack and just leave our bicycles there and go to the shop and buy things. It is us that actually provide more returns and more economical benefits to the local economy. So there's the evidence, like many places in the world have been implementing it. It's not a waste of money, it's an investment, and you'll see the return. And also you'll see less impacts on the public budgets, because if you promote low speed zones, you'll have then less people dying on the roads, and less people dying on the roads means investing less on maybe all the costs associated with a car crash, with the insurances, or even people that get injured and have lifelong consequences because of those situations. They cannot be economically active, they cannot maybe go back to work, or they will spend months or years before they can go back to work. So that is also impacting how our cities can benefit from the sustainable mobility. And one last thing I would say, engaging young people and investing in young people's participation, it's also an amazing way to see and shape different cities. You can see by Paola's example how empowered she is, and all the changes she has been able to do with tactical urbanism interventions, by having engagement with the community, with the local community. And that's what you want in your cities: people working together, people feeling like it's their city, it's my place, and I like it and I love it and I want to contribute to it. So investing in young people's projects can really help communities to be more, communities to be thriving and to be more engaged, and that'll contribute to a lot of other topics outside road safety, I would even say. So that's necessary, and like investors really need to put their money on youth-led projects.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. And I mean, yeah, it's all about explaining to them what's the monetary value involved in these things. For example, you mentioned that having safe cycling infrastructure would obviously means that there's less in low speed environments with less crashes, and the impact energy will be reduced, so there will be less bills and costs as far as hospitals and even the insurance companies. Even it all affects the whole cycle in that area. So I mean, yeah, that's very important, and involving the young people as well. They bring new insights, and from what we've seen from Paula. And yeah, thanks for shedding light on that. And then maybe I'll just quickly ask you guys one question before we round up. So to maybe I'll start with you, Paula. Are you able to, I mean, we have discussed the active mobility and road safety, but can you discuss the relationship between mental health, active mobility, and the overall quality of life as far as this topic is concerned?
Yes, of course. Well, I think it's like really like strong, a strong relation between those topics or ways of life. I would like to focus specifically in the use of bicycle as a means of transportation, the bicycle, which thanks to the many studies, we said like a lot of times is this in this forum, knowledge where you can go to the internet, look for it, you can ask us, you can look at the links that everyone has sent it in the chat. There's a lot of information, and thanks to that research, we know that using bicycle not only as a means of transportation, also as a sport or recreational way, but specifically to our goals like a transportation mode, improves the cardiovascular conditions, like the way that we breathe, the way that our heart beats, the way our brain get oxygenated, all that things get improved. Emotional management, a lot of friends, myself, use the bicycle as a therapy. It's not psychology not needed, okay? But it's a really great way to have a better emotional management. Also generates endorphins and dopamines that, as we know, those are the hormones responsible for pleasure and happiness. So I think it's also the environmental and economic contribution, as Daniela just said. So the truth is that I don't see anything against choosing the bicycle as always, not only as a mode of transportation, also like just to having fun.
Yeah. Thanks. I fully support choosing bicycles, and of course, you mentioned that a bicycle can be an emotional pill. So yeah. Thanks for that. And Daniela, could you maybe what are the most significant barriers to implementing pedestrian-friendly and cycle-friendly infrastructure in urban areas from your previous experience in Bogota? Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to say that Bogota is really committed to cycling infrastructure. I wouldn't see a problem in the infrastructure implementation in Bogota because we have almost 650 kilometers of infrastructure. I don't know that in miles how much is, but that's in kilometers, which is a long network. The thing is, and I'll go back to one of the Paula's points mentioned before, how you measure the experience of cyclists. This is something that we also explored through one of our local actions projects. And it is understanding that although you have a long infrastructure in place, you maybe are not ensuring people's experience to be the best. Again, because of the environment, because of the speeds around you, because of the lighting of the city, because of whatever, can be many elements that come to place to ensure you have like a pleasant experience by commuting by bicycle. So I would say it's super relevant to measure that, not only numbers, not only how many trips we are doing, at what times people are moving bicycles. That's important, but we also need to understand what are the challenges, what is people feeling. Maybe some of those situations would lead to people to move from, let's say, bicycles to a motorcycle, and that's something that we don't want to promote. So we really need to understand that. In terms of pedestrian infrastructure, I would say there's still like a challenge in Bogota. There's been like a neglect. I think that's the road user that has been more neglected in the past few years. That is changing now. There's a public policy for pedestrians, but those public policies are not like mandatory. So they are only like a reference, and governments can decide if they invest or not in those policies, and that's not ideal. So I would say most, you can see the model share in Bogota, I would say like 20% or around 15% of the trips are made by walking. So it's a lot of people, like way more than people driving. So you should try to balance the investment, seeing the amount of trips that you have by walking. You need to balance the investment and make sure that people walking are getting as the same or as much or even more investment that people driving. So those are the barriers. And I think, well, through our projects in the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety, we can definitely contribute to that, to change. I would like to share a link to one of the Claiming Our Space blog posts with information of the projects we have implemented in Bogota. So I leave it in the chat box if anyone is interested in what we have done. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, it looks like Bogota is leading the infrastructure, safe infrastructure for cyclists. I'll go to Stephen, a quick one. I would like to hear your thoughts on how can cities balance the need for mobility with the imperative to reduce carbon emissions and also create sustainable urban environment.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is a difficult one. And I think it is also in line with the question I saw in the chat asking what African leaders can do to balance this. But before answering this, there was a cost-benefit analysis that was done in Netherlands, in which they saw that investing in cycle lanes and the pedestrian lanes can have a benefit of 4 times the cost. So this is something that's very important. Now, talking about cities and mobility, there are several solutions that actually exist. First of all, public transportation is very important. At the end, once you invest in public transportation, mobility goals will still be achieved. Once you invest in cycle lanes and pedestrian walkways, mobility goals will always be achieved. And in most cities around the world now, we have, they're trying to implement what we call transit-oriented development, where within a compact area, we have all necessities. Means someone will not need to travel for a longer distance, maybe to search for jobs or to go for maybe to hospitals. So once cities implement this type of strategies where we have everything within maybe a 15 minutes walk or within public areas, so we are going to actually maybe reduce the need for mobility. And once we reduce the need for mobility, we are going to have a reduction in pollution and emissions. Then we also have innovative strategies such as shared mobility practices, bike sharing, car sharing practices, and then also have intelligent transport systems and maybe variable speed limit. So these are some solutions that some cities are actually implementing, and it is at the same time achieving mobility, but also reducing emissions and sustainability. For example, in France, we have what we call a 15-minute city, and within that 15-minute city, all the infrastructures, all the services are found within that area. And because of that, mobility is reduced, but then people still get their essential services within that confined area. So there are actually many solutions that exist and very good practices in several areas of the world that can be translated to others. Thank you.
Now, thanks. I'll just ask you one more final questions, and then I'll start with Paula, and then Stephen, and then finish with you, Daniela. So, I mean, we are seeing now collaborative efforts lead to innovative solutions that address common challenges, from, reducing traffic-related injuries and fatalities to promoting healthier, more active lifestyles. And one example is the Global Youth Coalition. I think you've always been mentioning that, and these kinds of coalitions is crucial, for creating environments where the next generation can thrive. So my question to all of you is, in what ways can these international partnerships and coalitions enhance the efforts to integrate road safety and active mobility into sustainable urban development? If you could quickly say answer this in 30 seconds, that would be great. And then so after that, we'll then dive into other questions from the chat. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Oh, so I'm saying, in what ways can international partnerships such as the Global Youth Coalition enhance the efforts to integrate road safety and active mobility, given the context of how effective collaboration efforts can be to foster and to lead innovative solutions?
Thank you. Well, like you can see, I speak Spanish, so English a little bit slower will be so grateful. Also, thank you for the people who joined from my collective that they will also not speak Spanish, the English, I'm sorry. So I will translate to you later. I think the greatest thing about being in not only this network of youth leaders, collectives, and organizations is be able to go outside your own reality, like be able to get inspired by others, be able to share your projects with people who has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. Like you can see only this problem, like the one is just right in front of you, but when you talk about it, you realize by others that this is not really a problem, most like an opportunity, maybe, or that you have another problems, or you have these alliances. So I think the most thing I've been enjoying of being part of this coalition, the Global Youth for Road Safety, being able to know a lot of like really motivated projects that I'm excited to be able to someday know in person. I would like to be able to go to the cities or know these people. I think that is the most important of being part of this network. And there's a lot of network, like international, locals, national. So I think it's, like I said before, only to take the time to look for it, go to DuckDuckGo and look for like I don't know, like networks, bicycle, pedestrians. There's a lot of movement in the world, so we got to get united.
Yeah, we got to get united. Yeah. Next, Steve.
I think she has covered almost everything, but I want to lay emphasis on the fact that when we have this coalition, this network, this global platform, it is a means of knowledge exchange and sharing best practices and case studies. For example, like this discussion we're having, we're sharing knowledge and best practices. So these platforms is a means to do this. And then we always have the wordings we say, knowledge is power, and then people is also power. So within this platform, it can serve as a medium for awareness and advocacy on the dangerous situations and the risk of road safety. And also, this medium is also a way where we can maybe share policies and come up maybe with some dialogues to talk about the dangers of various cities and communities, and then we advocate for changes. Thank you.
Over to you, Daniela.
Well, I would say there's two things that the coalition provides, and thanks to its like partnerships. First one is the connection with the governments. The Global Youth Coalition makes a really good effort to connect young people to their ministries or the secretariats of transport and ensure there's this conversation between decision makers and young leaders. And that's something I have never seen in like other coalitions. And I think that's a valuable effort because it really works towards having meaningful youth participation in place. The second thing is it provides knowledge through the JORS Academy. So there are like different modules where young leaders can learn about road safety, about soft skills, about advocacy. And I think that's a valuable resource. And it comes also because of those partnerships that JORS has with different organizations and let's say WHO and the Johns Hopkins Institute and other organizations that always like review the content of these modules. And these are modules that the coalition members can use and get knowledge from. So I would say, yeah, that's thanks to the international partnerships and the fact that this is a global network of young leaders around the world.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, it's very important if you are in the chat and if you have not joined one of these coalitions, you're welcome to join, and you learn more from the YOS Academy, sharing knowledge, exchanging ideas, getting all these local action projects, implementing them on your own as well. It gives you experience. Yeah, that's good. Thank you guys for sharing that. I will ask one question from the chat. It's from Carlos. So the question is, what is the general view on the growth of the e-bike in some areas? Is this perceived as a positive or negative trend, especially since one of the drivers for moving to cycling is related to health aspects? I don't know what he was trying to mean, but yeah, what is the general view on the growth of e-bike and the positive and negative effects? If there's anyone who would want to answer this, Stephen?
Yeah, maybe let me pick that quickly. I think when he's talking, if I understand very well, what he means, like once you're cycling, the physical activity is there, but with e-bikes, we don't have the physical activity. But at the end, what we want is to have a sustainable mode of transport. When we talk of sustainability, we want to shift from motorized to at least less motorized. And then with e-bikes, the rate of emission is very much reduced. So when we look at in terms of the global benefit, in terms of pollution, carbon dioxide emission, we're still going to have some positive impact. And that is why some countries are actually accepting the uptake of e-bikes, because it is still active mobility. At the end, maybe at some area, you might need to actually carry out some physical activity. And also globally, as I said, the rate of emission is reduced for e-bikes as also compared to using other forms of motorized vehicles. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Daniela, do you want to add something?
No, I absolutely agree with Stephen. I was thinking on a few days ago, I got to know there's some like challenges with e-bikes in cities such as Amsterdam, and that they're trying to manage the speeds of the bicycles, of the e-bikes, like automatically through an integrated system. And it shows like that it is challenging because of the speed that it can maybe allow people to go faster, maybe. But I agree with Stephen that at least that's an alternative option to move around without harming the environment. So I think you need to manage it. There are some challenges around it, but we definitely keep to promote sustainable modes of transport, and understand that there is going to be new vehicles coming up every now and then, and we need to really make a quick adaptation to that.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I'm also agree with all of your points. And I mean, we have all like have all different capabilities in terms of power, in terms of age, and so it's also important that to include everyone. E-bikes you can't be cycling for more than like 21 kilometers. So e-bikes can help you to do all those long cycling distances. So yeah, I think from my end, I don't see any questions from the chat. So yeah, thank you all for the great insights, and I hope we have picked one or two learnings from this conversation, and I'll pass it to Shashank now.
Thank you, TK, and thank you to the panelists. So it was a very enriching conversation. I appreciate the insights that we've received here. So as we wrap up this insightful discussion, I'd just like to reflect on the key themes, the takeaways from all our speakers, right? We delved deeply into some critical intersections between road safety, active mobility, mental health, public health, and the sustainability aspect of it. So as a quick recap for everyone, Stephen reminded us on the alarming impact of sedentary lifestyle and how powerful role young people can play in advocating for safer and more active environment. The statistics he shared were, let's just say, calling for an urgency and alarming rate which we need to start being more active for. Paola's grassroots efforts, they help put a perspective in place on mobility and how different gender groups that she's been working with, the challenges they face, and how essentially her initiative or her work with Entornos Amables, if I'm pronouncing it right, Paola, the project was able to drive impact in the community and fostering safe and an overall more empowered community. Daniela provided us with the compelling use case from Bogota on the urban planning, the policy, how pedestrians and cyclists can be integrated into it, how the work that she has done earlier with the local bicycle board helps improve those and overcome those challenges and hurdles, right? So I'd appreciate all the insights that we received, express our gratitude to the insights that we received from the YORS team. If you all folks are interested to be part of YORS coalition or the Global Coalition for Road Safety, please reach out to one of the panelists. Please reach out to us from IRF to collaborate on the young professionals community. And yeah, in conclusion, the strategies here that we've discussed, the insights that we've discussed, please take them back with you. The people you saw here are champions in what they do. And I appreciate them taking time out at really odd hours. So we are a group of 5 people across the globe right now. So I really appreciate all the effort and thank you so much for being here. Keep an eye out on the spaces, follow us on our social media. We have 2 more talk series coming up before our culmination into the IRF Summit. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have a good evening, good morning, good night. And yeah, thank you.